You understand what it's like to go from a regal fantasy to full-fledged Hollywood mayhem. So hold on tight, because Meghan Markle's dream, the Netflix arrangement, is falling apart more quickly than anyone could have predicted. Her anticipated transformation from Duchess to media mogul, which was supposed to be her big moment, is suddenly becoming a complete catastrophe. Additionally, Netflix is panicking behind closed doors. We should go back in time. The world watched with interest as Meghan signed her glistening multi-million-dollar contract with Netflix. She was entering the entertainment industry as a content queen in addition to a celebrity. The Strategy, a heartwarming documentary series. Titled With Love, Meghan, imagine a Hollywood-style makeover that combines yoga, wellness, and female empowerment. However, there was something far messier hidden behind the meticulously designed brand. When producers saw something really strange in her second season, everything fell apart. There was a section on cooking. Harmless, correct, however, it appeared far too similar, like a scene from Foreseen. Soon after someone reported it, everyone in the Netflix offices was in awe. Almost an entire episode of Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen had been replicated by Meghan's team. No, not just the idea. The entire line of dramatic confrontations, including the legendary "You're the head chef" moment from Ramsay's first season. This cannot be made up. Netflix felt ashamed. Executives rushed into emergency meetings, including Greg Peters and Ted Sarandos. Usually at odds behind closed doors, these two came together in sheer panic this time. How did this enter the post-production phase? How could Meghan's creative control and high standards have allowed this to occur? But here's the twist: the culinary episode was instantly removed from all iterations of the show. Instead of giving Meghan a fresh screenplay, they instructed her to improvise. That's correct. She was asked to wing it by Netflix. An unscripted docu-reality show. It would be like hurling someone off a precipice and shouting, "Grow wings." Naturally, Meghan was not pleased with this and erupted during internal calls, defending the piece as if it were her crown jewel. Her spin: she altered the scene and had the winner prepare food for a made-up charity event, so the show wasn't a knockoff. It was a good attempt, but Netflix didn't approve at all, and Netflix was working hard to contain the damage while Meghan was talking about creativity. In a panic, they contacted Gordon Ramsay's team to apologize and reassure them that they were managing the situation internally, but guess what? Ramsay was incensed. According to sources, he felt violated. His tempo, his combative demeanor, and his legendary vitality. Meghan's imitation was so flawless that it seemed like a parody while sporting expensive footwear. And things worsened. After Ramsay's team began looking around, Netflix launched a thorough inquiry. It appears that Hell's Kitchen wasn't the only instance of plagiarism. Excerpts from Rachel Ray's program. Check out the Kardashians' vibes. Yes, there are even scenes from vintage Food Network contests. One executive described Meghan's initial series as a Frankenstein production, which was a mishmash of borrowed concepts stitched together. However, Meghan dismissed it, stating that all creators take inspiration from other works, with the exception of Netflix, which identified sentences that were verbatim duplicates, lifting discourse like "you're in charge of sea-controlled Bing" from cable television. The last nail test audiences followed. A small number of people were given access to Netflix's upcoming episodes, and their responses were harsh. People saw the parallels right away. Some even made the jest that Meghan had binge-watched Food Network throughout the weekend before hitting the record. The quality wasn't even the biggest warning sign. Fans were misled by Netflix, and they could see their trust being betrayed, but Meghan wasn't giving up. She still thought she had done nothing wrong. She claimed it would blow away and referred to it as internal drama, but it continued to escalate quickly instead. Ted Sarandos finally took the phone. Meghan feared everything that had been copied was being permanently erased. No revisions, rewrites, or concessions. Meghan pleaded. Volunteered to reshoot the episode using different dialogue, but Netflix had already lost faith in her. To make matters worse, Meghan still had creative control. She could theoretically accept or reject modifications, but her influence was meaningless after this fiasco. Netflix was gradually removing her power behind the scenes. They hired new producers and sent legal monitors to each production. Rewrites that have been subject to copyright filters. Meghan was still in the program, but her presence behind the scenes was being muted, and as Netflix rushed to fix the sinking ship, their other issue loomed huge. Every second of the film was watched like a hawk perched on the screen. The moment the platform was already facing criticism from users. Price increases ended. The HBO fan-favorite competition, Peacock and Max, are both chewing their heels. A Meghan Markle scandal further depressing them was the last thing they needed. Nevertheless, they found themselves enmeshed in a legal and artistic whirlpool caused by Meghan. As the damage increased, Netflix's concern shifted into full-on planning mode. Legal teams searched every square inch of Meghan's apartment, searching for everything that could blow up in their faces next while they are in love. And boy, did they discover more than a few warning signs. The more they investigated, the more it appeared that Meghan had not just dared. She had used some of Rachel Ray's content to create a full season of an image from Keeping Up with the Kardashians that was suspiciously similar to a snippet of a rerun. In essence, Meghan had produced a glitzy, expensive remix and marketed it as her own. When questioned about it, Meghan shrugged and said that everyone gets ideas from other sources. However, Netflix wasn't amused, particularly as comments from viewers began to flood in. The audience was furious and did more than just critique the program. They referred to it as being lazy. Even side-by-side comparison videos featuring Meghan's scenes alongside the originals were made by certain fans and went viral on TikTok. Meghan dug her heels in despite the fact that millions of people watched, and the verdict said she wasn't inspired, rather, she had imitated. She didn't think she had actually done anything wrong. She even attempted to micromanage the reshoots, insisting on daily footage checks, attending every edit meeting, and making late-night emergency calls that most people ignored. She was clearly in a downward spiral. According to insiders, the show became a circus. The scenes ran on endlessly, without any real script. The cast was instructed to follow Meghan's example, but because there was no framework, the footage turned into a jumble of embarrassing moments and meandering chats. Behind-the-scenes editors compared their work to constructing a mansion out of fog. In a desperate attempt to construct a plot when none existed, scenes were pieced together. On set, the worst individuals were burning out. Background actors ceased to appear, the crew members left. Once the show's heart had become its burden, the mood changed from one of excitement and hope to one of resentment and exhaustion. She was rumored to be paranoid. Others claimed that she pretended nothing was amiss. In any case, morale was at an all-time low. At the same time, choices were being made at the top of Netflix. Executives quietly started creating an exit plan. They were unable to simply disconnect the plug, not before igniting a media frenzy and overnight disappearance of a Meghan Markle would light up every Twitter feed and gossip site in the world. Instead, the strategy calls for a gradual, unobtrusive fading. Put an end to all promotion, trailers, and hype, and let it fade into obscurity. However, that didn't stop the criticism. The story was picked up by entertainment bloggers. Meghan was accused of plagiarism in headlines. Detectives on TikTok continued to publish receipts. Supporters were incensed, as Gordon Ramsay's name repeatedly trended. His supporters are calling for justice, despite never releasing a formal statement. Insiders claim that Ramsay was still incensed behind the scenes. Things weren't looking good back at Meghan's camp either. Her once busy calendar began to appear strangely empty. Brand deals are disappearing. Declining public appearances, no one was picking up her team's calls. Meetings were rescheduled inexplicably. Meghan was aware that her inner circle was rapidly getting smaller. The worst aspect, her contract was being reviewed by Netflix. Everything options for renewal clause escape. According to a leak, there was now very little chance that her show would receive a second renewal. Meghan was still working to keep things under control, but it was obvious that what had once been a wonderful collaboration was now being treated like radioactive waste. No one was following her direction, and she was reacting frantically to save what was left. She was no longer an authority. It eventually became indisputable. With Love, Meghan had turned into a warning tale about what happens when influence is allowed to run amok, rather than about fame, upheaval, or overthrowing the established order. The next Netflix is moving on quietly, quickly, and without looking back. The press will eventually move on too, but Meghan Markle's legacy from this Netflix catastrophe won't be easily erased when you treat originality as optional and forget that the industry might pick you up one day and drop you just as quickly. After what started as a brilliant opportunity to reinvent herself, Meghan is now struggling to maintain her brand, and the worst part is that she still doesn't seem to understand how much she's lost. In the end, Love Meghan didn't simply fail. It blew up on impact, stealing a significant portion of Netflix's confidence as well as Meghan's credibility and Hollywood aspirations. What was meant to be her comeback tale became a long, agonizing unraveling that took place in TikTok breakdowns and boardroom editing suites. Meghan is left standing in the wreckage of her own empire, blindsided, alone, and still attempting to seem as though nothing is wrong, while Netflix is already cleaning up the debris and moving on to the next exciting project. Hollywood, however, has a short memory. It won't go away unless you cause a controversy, and this one will haunt her for a very long time.